All right, good evening, class.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, today's objectives are I will summarize the main idea of the text, and I will examine different types of sediment and determine how sediment rock is formed. Last week we discussed three main types or classes of rocks. Jaden, what were the three classes of rocks that we discussed?
Igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks, and sedimentary rocks.
All right, so we discussed igneous rock, metamorphic rock, and sedimentary rock. So let's take a look at some sedimentary rocks. All right, in looking at the sedimentary rocks, what do you notice about the color?
There's a lot of different colors in it.
Okay, so what do you think about the structure, the texture of it? Is it going to be rough, smooth?
Yeah.
Rough. And what about the patterns? Do you see any patterns?
They're like it's layered.
So they're layered. So all of these rocks share characteristics in common. They're rough, they're layered, and they have different colors in them. So what we can say is that it's made out of sediments. Can you name some sediments for me?
Don't you have pebbles? And you got dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Gravel and sand.
Yes, sand. Yep.
Okay, very good. So here I'm going to distribute some student directions for you so that we can complete this experiment. Because I know that if sediments are forming sedimentary rock, then I want to know, like, if the layers of the sedimentary rock are being formed, does weight affect that?
Yes.
That's what you think? So you see where it says hypothesis? Write your hypothesis for the overall question. How will the weight of the sediment affect the settling order? Make sure you're answering the question. How will the weight affect the settling order? All right. So today you will be performing an experiment to determine how the different layers of sediment are formed. Will the weight affect this? So will the weight of the sediment affect the settling order? So let's go over our directions. So here you're going to be assigned a role. So Jaden, you're going to be the materials gatherer. Mrs. Burchett, you're going to be the recorder. And Mr. Burchett, and all of you all will be the observer, but Mr. Burchett is going to be the reporter. All right, so you see our following materials. We have pre-measured soil, sand, gravel, and pebbles. We have water and a scale. So the first thing you're going to do is use your handout 1 and make a prediction on what order the sediment will settle. Be sure to label which order the sediment will settle by labeling each sediment as first, second, third, or fourth. Do you have your handout? And since you're working as a group, just one person can record. So discuss among yourselves and come up with a prediction about which one will settle first? You're making a prediction.
They're like float.
Well, let me ask
Well, settle first means
you.
at the bottom.
Get to the
Get to the
Right.
bottom.
Oh.
So just because you got something big don't necessarily mean it's gonna fall fast in the water, right? But you could have a small piece, right, of rock, and it can go down. But sand, which is light, I think it would tend to float more.
See here, your recorder is going to record it.
And me?
Yes. So you see where it says prediction of settling water?
So we're gonna say, I say pebbles. You agree with that? Pebbles first. Or do you think the gravel?
I think the same.
You think the sand?
Yes.
What you think, Miss Rachel?
And you can write that on your on yours, so you can have different things.
So you say, I said, the prediction of settlement order. Daisy thinks it's what, sand?
Mhm.
And I think it's gonna be the gravel.
All right. Make sure that you're looking at your directions.
Okay, let's see. So, each settlement is first, second, okay. So,
What y'all think? Sand? What?
So pebbles.
I'm
Do
saying
you think pebbles
is
would be first, second, third, or fourth?
I'm thinking pebbles is
So you
first.
see here, it says prediction of settling water. So make sure you fill it out in the correct chart.
Yeah, so then.
Gravel. What do you predict that gravel will be?
What do you think? Second? Third?
Third.
You think gravel will be third?
Mhm.
What about the soil? I think that'll be fourth.
The soil would be like.
Because soil is
second.
gonna cover everything, right? Or will it build a base?
It'd be second.
Well, if you're making a rock, it might be in a different order. But I know you're gonna have the rock, which is the pebble. Then you're gonna have probably a little bit of sand mixing in there. Then the soil is gonna come. I think soil comes from breaking down of other things like your sand, and if you got like materials such as leaves, weeds, and stuff like that. That makes the soil. So I say the soil would be last.
Okay.
So
you got first, third.
Down there and mix with it.
Okay. Yeah. We just want to know the settling order. You're just making a prediction.
Okay.
All right. So then you flip over. And what is your next direction? You're going to use the measuring cup to weigh
half or a cup of pebbles.
by using the scale. So remember that when we are in science, we use the metric system. So we don't do pounds. We measure things in grams, kilograms. So here's your scale. And it's in grams. So who's going to come over and weigh them? Jaden, do you want to put them on there? Put your pencil down. All right. So you're picking up pebbles. Recorder, he is picking up the pebbles. Remember, this was 4.2, so you will subtract 4.2.
From 590.
And this is the pebbles, your first try, the first trial on your recording sheet.
The 4 point,
It's 590.
it was 5 what?
88.
It's 590.
Minus 4.82.
4.2.
Huh?
Just 4.2. That's how much you weigh. It's 4.2.
Minus 4.2.
Now your weight is here. You can draw a line
And what's on the
straight
pebbles?
down for first and second. All right, so your pebbles,
Was 5, what'd you say?
90 minus 4.2.
Which would be 5,
5.
85.8.
Okay. Yeah, you remove that.
You gotta subtract 4.2 from 590.
All right, on your sheet, what's next? Gravel, so you're gonna do the gravel.
Yeah.
492.
492, so subtract 492.
92.
Minus 4.2.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
494.
Subtract 4 from 92, which is 88. Then subtract 0.2 from 88. That will give you 487, right?
Let me subtract.
492.
Let's say 4.2.
Hey,
Yes, 4.2. Remember, your decimal goes here. That's a decimal.
Okay. So we just subtract this.
492
Yeah,
grams.
492 grams.
Minus 4.2.
grams.
Not 42, it's 4.2. So you gotta
I
make
got
sure
point
your decimals line up.
4.2 is on
492 would be 0.0 minus 4.2, 4 and 2 tenths.
It's 490.
So that's how you come up with 0.8 here.
You say what?
11 minus 4.
494. Now it's 492.
What was that we measured then?
That
That's
was
the grass.
Soil.
Gravel.
So,
We're doing something.
It's gravel.
That's grass.
all right, so you got it?
What was it? 4 point what? 87.8. Okay. All right.
All right. James, so now what's next on the thing? Make sure you go in order. So,
182. 182.
What did you get?
184. See, when you touch things, you mess with it. You're applying pressure, so the scale is sensitive. 184 minus 4.2.
It's going to be 179.8.
179.8. Okay, what's next?
And that was what?
That was soil.
Sand.
Sand.
$454.
So 454 minus 12.2 grams. Remember, this is grams.
Or 49.
All right. So do you have all of your measurements for the first try?
Yes.
All right. So here you have your water. What's your next step on your instructions? What are you supposed to do? Your instructions.
Okay.
Use a measuring cup to
Did that.
fill the jars with 2 cups of water. You are your partner.
Okay.
Pour the 1/2 cups of each type of sediment into the jar and screw on the lids.
Okay. So you're gonna take these and do what? Put them in here.
Put it in there.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna do them all at the same time.
We done?
Yep. Okay. All right. And you put the lid on.
You shake it?
Give it a shake.
Stuff.
Okay, now you're gonna wait. I wanna say, let's give it about 3 minutes to settle. Yeah, about 3 minutes to settle.
Look at that.
Pebbles are on the bottom.
Well, it's
Sands.
mixed. Pebbles are on the bottom, and so is some of the sand. And then some of the rocks are settled on top of the sand. And now it look like this dirt is starting to penetrate through the sand, working its way down. You see that right there? That's settling. Clear.
Alright,
Settle.
I'll set up the second one. The second trial. So, does anyone know why we do more than one trial when you do an experiment?
See if it'll come out the same.
Right? That way you have a testable, they call it validity. Scientists use that to make sure that it's valid. Because if something just happened one time, it could be by chance, right? So you typically want to do at least 5 trials, right?
Dirt. It's thinking.
It's settling.
It's changing colors.
Settling, yeah.
Settling.
Settling.
Mhm.
So even though it's the lightest, it seems like it is. It's starting to clear up a little bit. It's better than the one that's topsoil.
Mhm. And see, when you do an investigation, you can go on and on and on. Because after you write your conclusion, you'll be able to say, okay, this happened. Now let's try something else. Maybe we use a different type of soil, like just a clump of dirt from the field.
But what if we poured the dirt in first? Would it make a huge difference? And then added the rock. And I noticed the dirt settles slower.
Alright.
But you still have dirt here at the top.
And slowly. So remember the overall question. Does the weight,
Oh,
alright, does the weight affect? So that's what we're trying to find out, if the weight affects the settling water.
So what you gonna do is try to post some in a different way?
Well, you're gonna measure it in. Alright?
Then you gonna,
So you see here, so what do we have so far? You had 585. Which one had the most weight?
pebbles.
the pebbles?
Alright. Which one was next
Sand.
with the most weight?
But it was the
Gravel.
You sure about that?
That's the
Yeah, the
sand.
weight
It
is
was
And then the
gravel.
sand was what?
449.8.
And then the soil?
It's 179.
9.8 grams, okay? So 170. Okay. All right. So now let's do your second trial. Jay, measure, make
Tell
sure.
me what you're doing first.
The first, Jay, what's on your list?
Gravel.
No, first on your all your papers.
So you should grab the pebbles first.
Mm-hmm. So there, when using the scale, you always want to pair it first to make sure those see right before.
548.
548 minus 4.2.
Mm-hmm. So what's next, baby?
You could do the pebbles.
476
Great.
grams.
Is how much again?
476.
47 what?
476. They changed.
Oh,
For what? 76.
all right. What's next? The recording sheet.
Okay, soil.
This one?
Soil.
That's your recording sheet. These are your directions.
Soil should be
Next.
That's the one that was on there. $2.14.
Okay. You got it.
That was sand.
$140.
All right.
$435.2.
Are you ready?
Hey.
Okay. All right. Let me
Give it a shake. Like a shake. Up and down. Shake, shake, shake.
It's only laughing.
let's just see if we take it to different form.
Y'all see that for your comparison? So then we're gonna give it another 3 minutes. Wait for it to settle.
You see the pebbles?
There's 3 of them.
See, you can still see the dirt settling in the first.
Can you see that observation? You're doing the observation process. You're observing. All right, so while we're waiting for that to settle, you can go ahead and fill out your settlement of the first trial. So pebbles in the first trial, which order did it settle?
First trial is
Okay. And then the gravel,
second.
and the soil,
Soil is fourth.
and then the sand.
And third.
All right. How many more minutes we have for that? So one more minute, we'll let this settle.
settlement trial. But you already did it.
What you say?
I said first, second, fourth, and third.
First, second.
That's what it appears to me to be.
You're looking at it, making an observation. Okay. So we've done hypothesizing, predicting.
But see, some of the rocks, even though it was first, some of the rocks still passed and made it to the bottom beneath it through the cracks. Yes.
Comes first. Sand.
That's what you just observed in this one. Even though the rock, I kind of mixed it and shook it at a different angle. Still the rock is still at the bottom in the gravel. And the sand
First,
and the
third,
soil.
fourth, second.
Right? So even though we poured the dirt in first, it still ended up on top. The rock still went to the bottom and the gravel.
Oh, the soil in first?
Sand still came in third.
All right. So you're gonna write down your observation for your second trial. All right. So compare your results. You're looking at the weight. You're looking at your prediction, and you're looking at your observations from trials 1 and 2.
What do you think, Dave? And see, when you look at when we see our rock is still on the bottom.
It makes the observation.
Even though we poured them in at
So
different
what I'm
times.
saying is the positioning. Remember the overall question. Will weight of the sediment affect the settling order?
Yes.
Correct. Now, explain to me why. Why is that?
Because the more it weighs, the more it's going to sink, and the less it weighs, then it's going to float.
Was it gonna float? Did the dirt float?
No.
Right.
When we put the dirt on before, after all of the other stuff.
So it settles at some point, right? It might have floated at at the beginning, but as time goes on, if we left this, that would eventually all float. Not float, but settle, right? So what was the weight of the soil compared to the others? Was it less or more?
It was more the same.
No,
The weight?
The soil was less.
In your measurement?
Yes.
The soil came up less. See, every time we measured the soil,
Very low.
it was lower than.
Look at your results.
Yeah, look at your results.
Soil was lower.
So the
So the soil was the less. Remember, we're not guessing anymore. We're not hypothesizing anymore. We've done the work, right? No need to guess. Always look at your evidence. That's the whole purpose behind an experiment. Is the hypothesis would be what? Based on little evidence. You've completed the experiment, right? You've done 2 trials. Now don't guess. Always look at your results.
The rock is still on the bottom. And the
Sand.
gravel came in second. And then I can see your sand is up here. And then your dirt was on the top.
All right. So you see at the bottom of your recording sheet, you have a conclusion. So you compare your results, look at your hypothesis, and see if your hypothesis was correct. So what did you hypothesize? Did you say that weight will affect?
Yeah, weight will affect the settling order.
Okay.
Because in our first measurement, sand was second.
Mm-hmm.
But
The first.
In the first time our measurement, pebbles was the heaviest.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next was sand. Then the gravel, which was third. Right.
When we did it,
The
measured.
gravel, the
So your
gravel
weight.
was third.
So looking at your weights,
At the weights. So looking at the weights, gravel was second.
and so it was second, and it's we put
In the
the order,
settlement,
right?
right, in the settlement file it was second. And then the sand was third, and then the soil was fourth.
And that was that way for both trials, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can conclude now what?
That weight will affect the settlement of the sediment.
Right. The settlement of this. So how do you write a conclusion? You can look at your hypothesis. What did you hypothesize?
That the more, it matters, the weight matters.
So you said the weight will affect the settling order. The weight of the sediment will affect the settling order. In your conclusion, you want to say, well, like the way that I have been instructed in my mentor class. You always want to look at your hypothesis, and then in your conclusion, you want to state the weight will affect, or you can even say, I hypothesize that blah, 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 that the weight will affect the settlement order, and based on my completion of 2 trials, I found it to be correct. I found my hypothesis to be correct. Because you measured it, you got a measurement, right? You compared that measurement, you made a prediction. Was your prediction correct or incorrect, Jade? You sure about that?
Yes.
Huh. I thought you said something along the lines of you thought the
translate.
sand would be first.
We did the second, the first, then we did the
You
second.
changed it.
Yes.
When did you
All
change
of
it?
them was the same, right?
Now?
No, you can't change a prediction.
And that was the same.
A prediction is.
All this was the same.
It was the
First
same. The first one and the second one was the same.
Yep.
So we can conclude that what?
That the settlement order will be,
That the weight
that the weight will
affect
affect the settlement
Settlement.
order based on 2
trials.
trials.
There you go. Now remember, I told you that we should at least have 5 trials. Scientists use at least 5 trials, not more. But because of the time constraint, we only did 2. So what do you think? If we had a new investigation question, what if we used a different type of sediment? Instead of potting soil, what if we used dirt, like clump dirt
Or
So
clay.
or clay or something like that? So see, that would be our new investigation. Or we could ask a different type of question. Does the order in which it is, because you know that when you do like by a river, right? Think of a
But
river.
they have different kind of sand.
They have different types of sand. It's mixed with shells. So where do we get sediment from? We're gonna read this article and find out some information. So here we go. When a solid rock is exposed to air, the air cuts loose tiny particles from the surface of rock. This geological process in which air wears down small fragments of rock by its continuous flow is known as weathering. So what do you think weathering means?
When the weather affects the earth and then minerals come out of it.
Or
Right.
whether they erosion, like an erosion process.
Right. So do you think we, in a real life situation, right? If you think about the lake or this little grudge ditch thing we have down here, you know how that water rises and it goes down and those rocks and pebbles and dirt and all that sand and stuff is there,
They push it.
it pushes it, right? So then that's part of the weathering process. So gravity also helps these solid particles to slide along downhill. And this is known as mass wasting. So the agents of erosion like groundwater, wind, or ice carry these particles to new sites where they start to build up. So the word sediment, what is sediment?
It's short for sedimentary rock.
Well, we know that sediment is made up of sediments. We know sedimentary rock is made up of sediments, right? But what is sediment?
Mineral.
Minerals? Name me 4 types of sediment.
What types of sediment? Rock, gravel,
So, things.
pebble.
Right? And then we know others like clay and all of that. So think about this. What if we had a fossil of like a dead fish or something in there? And remember, the pressure over time is going to form this sediment into what? A rock. What type of rock?
Metamorphic.
It would be igneous. Oh,
Sediment.
Sedimentary?
sedimentary.
Right. If this is the sediment, it's going to do what over time?
Yeah.
The pressure is going to make it into a what type of rock?
Sedimentary rock.
Sedimentary rock. So sediment is a general term which refers to the collection of loose, solid particles. Loose, solid particles. They come together to form the sedimentary rocks, okay? So sediment builds up in what? What is this?
Water.
Layer.
Layers. So sediment builds up in layers and has roots in pre-existing rocks. Comes from different origins, like all the solid fragments of rocks as a result of weathering. And what was that E word you said, Miss Burchett?
Erosion.
Erosion. Jaden, you said minerals, right? So minerals from solutions containing chemical elements, minerals that animals get from seawater for making their shells. So what can we say about sedimentary rock? What's the constant here in this sediment, in the sediment? What made this? Because you said metamorphic and igneous, and we'll talk about that later on. But right now we're focused on sediment. What constant is here?
Sediment.
Water,
Water, yeah.
right? So we can say that this sediment, right, is around surrounding water, right? Okay. So then we're going to learn about some transportation. So transportation is called rounding and sorting. Rounding is when rivers and ice transport sediment from one place to another. During this process, particle sand and gravel rub away against each other and their jagged surfaces or edges are flattened. This process is known as rounding. Sorting, however, it tends to pick and carry specific size grains and leave the rest. Process is known as sorting. Since particles of bigger size weigh more than smaller ones, they are left behind. So you see that? Can you visualize that? Think of a river or a lake, and the water is coming. So let me read that again. Since particles of bigger size weigh more than smaller ones, they are left behind. Because they're heavier. So in a natural setting, even weight affects the sorting order or the settling order. Yeah. All right. So sediment is deposited in the following way of descending order. So think about this. I'm going to mix it up for you and test you. Sand, pebbles, cobbles, and boulders. Which one comes first?
Boulder.
Boulders. Which comes second?
We'll repeat that.
Your other sand, pebbles, and cobbles.
Pebbles.
Cobbles.
Cobbles is second. So what's third?
Pebbles.
And what's fourth?
Sand.
Why?
Because
of the weight.
Because of the weight. Very good, very good. All right. So, in reading this article, what was the main idea?
Sediment.
To proven a hypothesis.
No. The article.
Oh, that article.
What was the main idea of this article? What were we talking about? Sediments.
Sediments.
All right. And how they are carried, the processes of sedimentary rocks, the transportation of sedimentary rocks. So this article was about sediments, right? All right. So did you meet your objective? You will find the main idea of an article.
Yeah.
All right. Look on
What
your
you're talking about.
right. So remember that our objective, you wanna at the beginning, you wanna make sure that you understand what it is that you'll be able to do. Right? And so when I'm a full-time teacher, that's what I'll do. I'll write it on the board, right? I will, blah, blah, blah. Or I can, blah, blah, blah. Your second objective said that you can examine different types of sediment and determine how sediment rock is formed. How is sediment rock formed?
From open,
Through movement, shifts,
Water.
cracks, water,
Right,
flowing, erosion.
right. And what's that big thing that we need? For it to turn to rock, we need pressure, right? All right. So then we're going to look up here. This is my tripod. All right. So here I have for you, name 4 types of sediment. Jay, give me one.
gravel.
Father, give me another one.
Pebbles.
Mother, give me one.
Sand.
All right. Jaden, can you think of another?
What we say, gravel.
Coal.
So you got soil,
Pebble.
pebbles, sand, and gravel. We could name some others. What else did I mention?
Clay.
Clay, shells, fossils. And what's important about that fossil?
The fossils, like, if they're open and
Because if something died that had bones or you know something here, and that pressure, and then more stuff was on top of it.
it forms a sedimentary rock.
Right. But couldn't you see that fossil in there?
The print.
The print of it? Yeah. So name the order in which the sediments settle.
Oh, it's pebble.
Pebbles.
Pebbles, okay.
Gravel.
Gravel,
Soil.
Sand.
sand,
Then salt.
then soil. So I'm going to ask you this overall question and I need an explanation. Does the weight of the sediment affect the order in which it settles? Why
Yes.
or why not?
Weight the weight is depends on how it's going to move. Like, is it going to be at the bottom or the top or the middle?
But why?
Because weight is
Especially
heavy
in
because
water.
it's heavy.
Because the weight will affect the
Weight, yeah.
sediment.
Right, though. It's gonna affect the settlement.
So explain to me why. All I hear you telling me that the weight. I need an explanation. Why?
Because it can't move. Once it's gonna be left behind.
Okay.
So because it's left behind, then it has to form where all the other, sediments, could pass along.
Uh-huh.
But it's gonna start the base for, I guess, starting this sedimentary rock.
So you're saying that the heaviest things will fall at the bottom. But it depends on when it comes too. Because think about it. We said the sedimentary rock was in what?
Layer.
So it's not going to always be so precise, right? It's not going to be sand and then it's going to be rock. It's going to be a mixture of things. So that's why you see the different types of layers in the sedimentary rock once it's formed. All right. So how does sedimentary rock, so how does scientists use sedimentary rock to learn about the Earth's past? A, it contains fossils. B, it is in Texas. C, it is used in buildings. And D, it contains minerals.
It's either A or B. Fossil. A.
So it contains fossils? Is that what you? J?
A.
Okay. Dad?
You said contains, I think it contains fossil minerals.
No, how do scientists use sedimentary rock to learn about the Earth's past?
By
A, it contains fossils.
yeah, that's
That's
it.
it?
Fossils. Yeah.
All right. Our next one is explain why the sediment on the bottom settled first.
Because they weigh more. Or.
Yep.
Because
For the weight.
Because of the weight. So the heavier things go to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is sediment? Is it weather that occurs around fossils? A kind of jagged tail? A rock that includes ice and shells? Or pieces of rock, sand, and dirt?
Pieces of rock, sand, and dirt.
Pieces of rock, sand, and dirt. All right. What characteristics does sedimentary rocks have? A, glassy surfaces. B, striped layers. C, weather patterns. D, tiny crystals.
C.
What characteristics?
It's just.
I would think
D, tiny crystals.
Not necessarily.
Striped layers.
striped layers.
Layers, right? Because the whole purpose of sedimentary rocks is what?
Rocks and sand.
You have different
Yeah.
layers, right? All right, last question. How does sediment become sedimentary rock? Sediment deposits in one place and settles in layers. The weight of the sediment squeezes the layers together into rock. B, sediment deposits in one place and mixes together. Then wind, weather, and ice freeze the mixture into rock. C, sediment settles on limestone cliffs and inside caves. There it forms minerals and turns into rock. Or D, sediment mixes with seashells and fossils. Then wind, weather, and ice erode the mixture into sedimentary rock. Can you read that?
Yeah, I can see it. It says sediment.
All right, y'all study that.
And layers, where squeeze layers together into rock.
Hey.
I think it's A2, sediment one place and mixed together. Then wind, weather, and ice freeze the mixture into rock. Sediment settles on limestone and seashell I'll say is the weight of the sediment squeeze the layer together into rock.
All right, very good. Well, I thank you all for being a part of my class. And next week we will be discussing igneous rocks. Thank you.